Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I am joined today by Michael Greenberg. He is a AI, aficionado in the small businesses and digital operations. Um, so the way the structure is going to work is we're going to learn a little bit about Michael, who he is, how he can help us today, and then he's going to give a little overview of what we're going to cover and a couple actionable tips. So, Michael, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. It's
Awesome.
summer.
It is summer. I'm based out of Washington D.C. and it's about 90 degrees, so it's summer today.
Well, it's about 80 here so in St. Louis, and it is much nicer.
Yep, very nice, very nice. So maybe set the stage for what the audience can expect today.
Yeah. Uh, so first off, a little bit about how I ended up doing this. I know everyone and their brother and their mother and their father have become AI experts recently. Um, I am not an AI expert. I employ them, but I am an expert in digital operations. And started my career about 10, 15 years ago now with seed stage, so small, early stage venture backed companies building the initial versions of their products, their minimum viable product, MVP. And so I did that inside of a company. And then I went and started doing that as a consultant, working with a team out of Ukraine. And so I sort of built my career on this combination of offshore team with onshore business expertise coming together to solve technical problems. The idea being I bring the business solution and a little bit of the technical edge, and then I work with a team to sort of build that out. Ended up working with a podcasting company, said, hey, this is the future, started an agency, grew that for about 7 years, sold it, went to work for a guy by the name of Jesse Pujji here in St. Louis. He runs a venture studio called Gateway X, and I helped them build out much of their executive branding infrastructure, go to market, and then the internal operations, especially the ClickUp build at one of their companies called Growth Assistant. Um, I was getting ready to go strike out back on my own. I had started a little podcasting business on the side with an apprentice to set up some income. And I went to Jesse and I said, I'm not quite sure what I want to do next, but ClickUp really worked well for me. One of my buddies is over there. We're going to start a consulting business with it. I do that. 2 months later, ChatGPT comes out.
Oh wow.
Suddenly, we know all of the Zapier automations. We're already building the hard coded stuff. We're already mapping out the workflows and documentation and checklists for every step of our customers' processes. That's just what we have to do to really build out ClickUp and any system like it. And so suddenly it all comes together. We are in the perfect position to identify where we can actually start using the AI tools with our customers today.
Very
Fast
nice.
forward 3 years later, 50% of our business is in AI advisory and development, and the rest of it is in digital transformation and fractional staffing of these sort of transformative teams for legacy businesses.
Very good. So it sounds like you were a little bit ahead of the learning curve. Was it more a byproduct of just interest in AI, or like what kept you, full disclosure, I didn't know much about it until ChatGPT was released.
Yeah.
I consider myself early, but not like an early adopter. So just curious on that.
Yeah, I had done some projects with machine learning in the past, and so I wasn't like entirely unfamiliar with the AI space. Um, but I watched like GPT-2 and it was like, oh, this will get there if it keeps going, but it's not there. And then ChatGPT just came out of nowhere. I thought that was still 5, 10 years off from something like that coming to market.
Yeah, it's very powerful. So, you know, we learned a little bit about you. Maybe we can, transition to some actionable insights.
Yeah,
Maybe give us, give our viewers, maybe the crux, the nitty gritty. Why don't we just jump right in?
absolutely. So for me, it all centers around one core framework. And that framework says, what level of sophistication is this business for its readiness to actually work with AI? Now, I've got a chart. We're going to pull that up in a second. But the big idea that I want you to sort of grab onto here is that you've got three different pieces that all need to come into alignment to make any sort of AI in your business work efficiently. Number one is you have to have good, clean data. I can't stress this enough because you've never had a reason to do it until now. Humans understand messy data, machines do not. That's probably the biggest like change. Two,
And
oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, when we say, messy, data, if people are, some of our audience are looking for businesses, like what are some telltales of like messy data, like,
Ooh,
on a granular?
oh yeah. Okay, so very, very common messy data still on paper, or still using carbon copies. If you ask a question and then they go look in five different places, or they have to look in even more than one place, that's a sign that their data is not well organized and categorized. Um, and so that essentially you can think of it as like, how many places do they have to look before they actually get the information they need?
Yeah, that makes sense. What are the next ones?
Um, so we've got data. Second is documentation. You've all heard about the traps of tribal knowledge, but the lack of like just basic business process documentation means that two people may say the same thing using the same words and mean something entirely different. And so you have to build that sort of common language as well as the workflow or flow chart or checklists to support it.
Yeah, SOPs, super important. Something
Yeah.
that a lot of small businesses overlook. I was guilty of it in my early days, but once you have them kind of developed, you can just leverage them.
Yeah. And I think the acquisition trap that I see here, and we've seen this with clients enough that like internally we know how much extra time it takes to solve for this when they haven't done it. And I see this in terms of like operators in searchers who come in and acquire businesses and see growth over the next couple years versus those who stall out for a year or two first. Is the guys who really get ahead, they're boots on the ground. They are going through and building like a master flow chart for their entire business, what we call at Third Brain, like a systems map. And it covers everything all the way through the customer journey from, first touch or marketing processes all the way through to follow up billing, sending gifts, whatever. And like going through that process isn't very painful. It takes us as an external 3 to 6 months. Internally, it's going to take at least the same. Um, but that gives like a picture to work from that most of these small businesses trapped in the low millions have never had.
Yeah, so true. So to, bring it back into like simple terms, what have you seen for those who may be owning a business or thinking about stepping into ownership? What have you seen? Like, what is the good you've seen with like the companies that have been able to like deploy this appropriately?
Oh yeah. So I think, and now I'm gonna share my screen if that's all right. I'm gonna show off a. little document I've got here.
And while Michael's doing that, if you have any questions about anything we kind of talk about or anything you'd like us to, feel free to post that in the chat and we'll get to it kind of periodically.
Yep. So I think the real opportunity is finding businesses who are stuck at level one as an information silo. And so yeah, I can zoom this in a little more for everyone. And so what that might look like is they are still on carbon copies, but they've got a great manufacturing facility. And I'm thinking of a particular client here where they came into a business, it had the right bones, it had a good team, but their technology was so behind. And he saw, oh, these guys are stuck selling locally and regionally when they could be selling nationally and have an offshore or nearshore sales team. So we built out a CRM for them in Airtable that synced with their ERP and PandaDoc for quoting and signing. We built all of the change order, the contract management, the quoting into one system. And now they have 3 guys offshore in Mexico handling sales instead.
Interesting. How long did that take to implement?
About a year and a half.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the
Well,
first 6 months were like, let's set up a CRM, let's document sales process, let's start getting the team to just use the basics. The next 6 months, we're actually building out the contract management automations and getting the team familiar with those, rolling them out. You know, a lot of these guys in the sales team might be 40 years old, or 50 or 60 in one case, I think.
yeah.
You know, like he was an installer who moved over to sales. Um, and then finally we started layering in the offshore team once we had the processes worked out and in place.
I'm curious, and I wonder if you had any visibility. How did you get some of these legacy owners like on board with this?
So this in particular, this case was a searcher. So this was post acquisition.
Okay.
And he had owned the business for about a year before he came to us. So he had time to absorb quite a bit. I would say in more like we, I don't see people doing this in like a legacy case without some sort of transition. And so it is very often, oh, we are 5 years out from the new generation taking over. And so they're leading digital transformation projects as stepping stones. Or it's, oh, that new generation has come in and now they're investing more heavily in these things. Or it's an acquisition, or it's we are getting ready to sell and we want to tighten up the ship before we do for a better multiple.
Gotcha. That's helpful. Yeah, I figured it was some sort of event, like an acquisition, a sale, or maybe like an
Yep.
LP investment. Because when I speak to legacy business owners who are prospectively selling, something like this overhaul, would be a tough sell, but it's valuable.
Yeah.
So just kind of curious.
Oh yeah, that very much shakes out where like if it's a 55-year-old owner, they're probably not going to do this. They
Yeah.
will sell it to the guy who will.
Yeah. You want to keep going down the levels?
Yeah. So information silos. This is really where you get the best deals, I think. They're also the hardest to find because they aren't online most of the time. Um, then I think this is sort of a sandpit level two, in that if you're stuck at level two, it is generally because you chose tools poorly. Um, Level two means cloud ready, so everything's up there and it can connect. And this is really important is you're not at level two if you can't take the same systems to level three. A lot of small businesses accidentally buy software that locks their data in silos, and that prevents them from moving forward when they get dependent on a tool in those categories.
So just to break it down, these various levels are almost like buckets of businesses. So the first level is like a traditional business with no information, like technology.
Yeah, that's
What does like a cloud ready, like level two look like in like very
yeah.
simple terms?
So a lot of times I see like digital agencies get stuck at level two because they buy some AppSumo deals or some other lifetime SaaS deals to cut costs. And those tools never get Zapier integrations, they never get APIs. And oh, our CRM is great, but it can't connect with any other system we use. Um, and that's that's a case where, oh, we're almost ready, but that CRM stuck as an information silo, even if even if it's in the cloud, because it just can't connect anywhere else. And so level
Gotcha.
two, very much about like, hey, we have a checklist. Does it have an API? Can we afford that API? Does it have access to all of the data via API? API is like how different automation tools talk to each other. It stands for application programming interface. And so it's like it's the menu of ways in which an AI or another system could interact with that software. And so we need to make sure it has that. So that way we can get to level three. We can automate all of those handshakes and data transfers so you don't copy paste data anymore. And then we end up with, oh, when we go look for something, there's one place where it is and it's there and it's accurate every time.
Gotcha. Okay. So I guess from like it sounds like a lot of businesses, just thinking about my own, fall in that bucket too, probably. Like, for
Mhm.
example, I have a HubSpot CRM. I use QuickBooks and I also use like Trackaby. You know, full
Yeah.
disclosure, I bought that on AppSumo. It's actually pretty good, but it
Yeah.
probably
Oh,
doesn't
a lot of them
connect.
are great.
Um,
Um,
so I would imagine a lot fall in level two, right?
yeah. And like that's level two is a very comfortable place. You can get a lot done going from level two to level three. This is where I think like, oh, you can invest heavily in IT, but if you don't invest in the business process documentation and you don't invest in, oh, we need to make this IT ready for AI specifically, then you get stuck at level two because you're not thinking about the data management and the documentation that you need to get to level three and beyond.
Gotcha.
And then you start to try to roll out automation and you get stuck because you realize, oh, this automation can't actually do the 30 other edge cases we have. We chose the wrong thing and you spin your wheels.
Yeah. What about you want to keep trucking down the levels?
Absolutely. So once we've got unified data and like clear documentation on processes, it's about automating workflows. And for us, automation means we are replacing steps that humans used to do, but we are not getting to the point where like the AI does it for them. There's still a high level of input. It might be, oh, you have a tool and the tool says, hey, I need you to go find me a list of 100 uh, investors in the St. Louis area who do multifamily deals between 20 and 100 units. But that's still very much a research workflow that you can teach something or like draw out on a board and have a system go do for you. And so it's not really AI thinking or using logic for itself. And then
Gotcha.
finally, we build all those workflows and they become the tools that we give to an AI to then operate with.
Gotcha. So the automation component of it, because I have played around with automating some of my own businesses, and when I look at businesses, prospectively, as an investor, or maybe if I'm, thinking about acquiring it, what are some questions to ask just to understand, like quickly, what does it look like? I'll call it the tech stack.
Yeah. So I think it is safe to assume most businesses don't have this stuff. Um, you're better off asking, like, hey, walk me through how you do your work, and then seeing what tools they use and how they interact with them. And that will give you a very good idea. Going back to like the looking for a piece of data example, when they have to go respond to a customer email, see how many different tools they have to open up to go get everything they need to respond to that email. Because they'll probably open like a CRM or just their inbox and scroll back through the conversation. And then they'll open like a project management tool or a Slack or something like that to look up the actual status of whatever the request is. And then they might have like a customer support ticketing system that they actually respond. And that would be like an advanced case where they have all those tools. It's equally likely it's two pads of paper and a Google sheet or like an Excel
Yeah.
file on a shared drive.
The the legal pad with all the leads and the to-do list I see frequently.
Yeah. But that's
Yeah.
like a great business because if everything's on that legal pad, you get that legal pad into an Airtable or a ClickUp or something like that. And now you're really cooking.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So, um, in terms of like things you look for, would you say like going after businesses that don't have these is too much of a lift, or like is that it sounds like you're attracted to businesses like that.
Yeah. So I think of it in two ways. One is how much of this business can be improved by these things. So something like home services where they're marketing heavy businesses and like back office heavy operations, you can improve them significantly by putting things like this in place. Same with manufacturing when you have national distribution opportunities, things like that. But if you are in like a manufacturing business that only works locally, like a concrete plant, maybe, you have a lot less to gain from implementing these sort of things. And
Gotcha.
so I think it's the first question is like, what is the upside opportunity of investment here? If this business just ran on paper for the next decade, how much would it matter? And look, if you're the only guy who makes concrete for 100 miles around, you're still good.
Yeah. Right.
um, but the other side is how difficult will it be to actually implement these things? And so looking at what is the age of the mix of the team, are you going to have any holdouts where like, oh, this guy's not ready to do this? Or does this business have a young like manager who's sort of been champing at the bit there and wanting to get ahead, um, but has been held back by an aging management structure? And so I know we have run into many times and we made a policy internally. If we see like strong political pushback from employees, we tell our client and we say, look, we recommend you build around that. It's not worth it's not worth breaking process because our process is people, then process, then tools. First, get everyone on board with doing this. Then go through the process of mapping out how everything works and identifying where there is a win for both making their lives easier and actually improving your bottom line or capacity abilities. And finally, you select and implement the tools to do it.
Yeah, so true. So I'm curious, what type of businesses work well, like with this integration plan, and what types of businesses don't work well? Give me the good and then give me the bad.
Yeah, I'd say the businesses where I see like the most consistent uplift are in light manufacturing.
Really?
Um,
Okay.
yeah,
I would not have guessed that. Why so?
they have regional or national distribution opportunities. Um, they are generally more nimble. They aren't locked into like the same level of industrial ERPs in most cases. And they have smaller teams. So they're more likely to have like a sales led acquirer or like management structure. And that leads them to being more likely to adopt this sort of digital initiative.
Gotcha. When you say light manufacturing, like what types of businesses specifically? Anything come top of mind?
Yeah, like siding, certain types of medical, like testing and other, can we put it in a space and maybe you need 480 voltage, like heavy
Yeah.
industrial voltage, but you don't need a bunch of like toxin approvals, or you're not stamping out a lot of metal. Though we have had success with some like truss manufacturers, machine shops, that sort of thing, where just the project management efficiency that they can gain in setting up a system like this can be quite strong. And so I would say that's number one. Number two would be home and commercial services, construction as well, in the same vein where this comes in, it gives them the project management infrastructure they need. We can implement, hey, take photos of things on site. Property management for myself, not really a business that people buy though. So probably not as much there. I would say the businesses where I have seen this fail more often tend to be franchises. We've had a couple cases where clients will invest quite heavily in building a system to fit their franchise infrastructure. And then the franchise makes a decision and says, hey, you can no longer use this system, or they change some other piece and it no longer integrates because they create a silo. And so those are the projects that most often get like broken by some outside player.
Yeah, it's interesting you say franchises. I do a lot of franchise deals, like for when I'm conducting due diligence, and more often than not, the like franchise like oversight committee often will like lock heads with like the individual owner, and a lot of this AI is coming up. Like I'm doing a deal right now with some of these challenges. They built out like a automation and funnel campaign, which is actually pretty good, and their oversight committee doesn't like it.
Yep.
um, so there is some tension there.
Oh, yeah. Now, I'll tell you where in franchises we have seen success. That's in multi-franchise holding companies performing roll-ups because they are operating and building out operating infrastructure that is not supported by the franchise organization because they're normally more units than the franchise organization is designed to support.
Interesting. Okay.
So that's just
Gotcha.
like a little niche we've seen. And holding companies for roll-ups in general,
Yeah.
very, very successful with this because you get that combined back office efficiency.
Yeah, absolutely. Want to transition into more nuggets on your sheet?
Yeah.
All right.
So um, I think when we look at like where do you find the best AI potential? If I had to summarize it down to like one area, it's what is the sales and marketing capabilities of this operation? Because you can put AI everywhere, but only one place grows your top line. And a home service business gets benefits because of the back office, but also because they can run better lead generation campaigns.
Right. Yeah.
Manufacturing, the light manufacturing, they succeed because they can focus more on national accounts and like competing with other big players where they get $1 million contract and they get a 30% lift.
Yeah.
Um, so if you can find a business where like, oh, they have more capacity than they are selling right now. And that's just because they have a poorly designed or a non-digital or otherwise revenue generation engine in sales and marketing. That's where the real opportunity is. There's no
Gotcha.
opportunity. And this is like, we have to convince our clients of this because this is like terrible for me as an operations consultant to say. There's no money in like optimizing your internal operations or
Yeah.
very little money in it until you have like significant revenues or unless it unlocks a totally new business model. And if you're acquiring a business, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, AI automation, fantastic, but you should really like just build a CRM. Maybe don't even try to implement in back office until you're doing a roll up
Yeah.
and focus on building out really like a lead generation, revenue generation engine.
Yeah, I agree. So maybe, for those of you joining our live stream, we're covering all things AI and SMBs. Maybe give, some of our viewers some actionable things. So if they just joined us, maybe a couple actionable things they can take away.
Yeah. I think number one, ask yourself today, how ready are we for AI? And when you ask yourself that, ask sort of three sub questions. One, how many places do we have to look when we're trying to find data? Two, is the data actually accurate when we find it? And three, do we have our processes documented to the point we could communicate them only via flowcharts and checklists?
Gotcha.
And that one, your onboarding is going to go so much smoother if you answer like yes to all of those. But two, you're just going to be fully AI ready. Um,
Right. So what are you using currently for some of the SOPs and
yeah.
flowcharts? Like what are your favorite AI tools?
Ooh, yeah. So one of my favorite ways to do this, and we've built some custom tools to help support it now, but you can go to Claude or ChatGPT, but Claude visualizes this better, I will say. And we will either interview a manager or interview somebody and ask them to walk us through the process step by step. And when you have somebody walk through every step like that, you can catch the steps that they don't think of in their head, but they still do. Very
Right.
important. Uh, Take that recording, give it to the AI with any SOP or other documentation they have internally, and then ask it to make a flow chart and ask it to make checklists for each one of the pieces.
In
And if you're
Claude.
using, yeah, if you use Claude, it will generate flow charts. There's a magic coding language called Mermaid JS
Okay.
that is like a flowchart code language. And Claude will generate a flowchart and display it for you in the same app.
Mermaid.js. Yep, I just pulled it up. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, this is good. The recording the process and then feeding it back to Claude is actually something I haven't thought of. Because I have noticed, and again, in my light sort of just, I call them like AI sprints. I'll
Yeah.
sprint and just binge AI for like a few days and then just put it to the side for like a month. I have noticed that Claude is better with like grammar and like understanding rather than like ChatGPT is more of like the research
Yeah.
funnel. I don't know if what have you seen?
Yeah. So I think it's sort of a design philosophy difference. Claude is my best work companion.
Interesting.
But so like when if I'm drafting a document or if I'm working on a website, I'm probably going to go to Claude. And keep in mind, my company has a budget and a full-time person just dedicated to testing AI tools and stuff. So you're not expected to have every model. We just happen to like that's my job. I go over to ChatGPT. That's sort of my day-to-day workhorse is O 03, O 04.
Yeah.
Um, and most analyst work, I think ChatGPT does great on. But like, I would not ask it to help me draft an email to close a deal. I'd leave that to Claude.
Really? Okay. Interesting.
I mean, I say that only because I have all the options. Like, if I
Yeah.
only had one, it would be great for all of them. It's still better than the average human.
Yeah.
Um, that's why I preface it with like, I'm picky about models because I have the opportunity to be. But I do think like internally, at least, when we see teams adopt tools, like at the team level, the Claude team structure, it has its advantages and companies love it. But Claude Teams package does not allow you to share any chats you have outside of your company. And that is terrible if you work with clients.
Yeah.
So
And ChatGPT lets you do that or no?
ChatGPT lets you do that.
Okay. I thought so.
And then if you haven't used Gemini yet, Google,
Yeah.
it comes with G Suite. It's amazing. I love it. Gemini is fantastic.
What's like what are the like competitive advantages out like if we were to do like three
It's cheaper.
buckets? It's cheaper? Okay.
Gemini's the cheapest. So that's
What
like,
what is it per month?
well, it's included with your G Suite.
Oh, it's included. Okay, so it's basically free.
Yeah. So
Oh,
like,
okay. Got
and then
it.
I think there's an upgrade for like 10 or 20 bucks a month that's like upgrade like the others. But and they have, an unlimited everything super plan at 200 like all the others.
Yeah.
And that's sort of all of the plans sort of break out to they have some sort of free version. They have like a $20 a month premium, and then they have some sort of unlimited or max capacity plan at 200 a month.
Gotcha.
Um, and so if you're like a consultant or an individual or like searching for a business to buy, I would just get ChatGPT Pro, the unlimited, and then I would get Gemini that comes with your Google, and that will serve you well.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the deep research on ChatGPT. I work with prospective business buyers, so folks either currently working W-2 jobs and like actively trying to source deals, and they've
Yeah.
been using it to do a deep dive on like industry.
Oh yeah.
So if they, for example, like one of my clients was working like thinking about submitting an LOI for like an oil and gas, and he basically had it run like an industry report about oil and gas. And it was like 10 pages of like some of the best stuff. Like it probably would take
Oh.
someone like weeks to produce. It was crazy.
So this is another one where I would encourage, I highly recommend people use two tools when they do that sort of thing. Because when you do deep research on industries, and we've built some custom deep research systems for like doing major account reporting for clients and stuff, you run into it confusing numbers. And so you want to take it from one system, give it to the other system and say, hey, can you double check my numbers and facts in this? And so take it from like ChatGPT to Gemini or to Claude and run them against each other because they are going to be like 90% accurate. But that it's in anything like this, it's the one mistake that ruins the credibility.
Yeah.
And that's why people say, oh, you can't use it yet. When in reality, yeah, you 100% can. You just need to double check the work a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like to kind of cross compare. We went on a little bit of a tangent. Do you want to flip back to your PDF and maybe highlight a couple other things?
Yeah, sure. So I think the next thing to look at here, and let me get the PDF back open and massive instead of being a small.
Yeah, no, no worries.
I think I'm gonna show. So we've got what I call the three C's, and they cover
Yep, I can see it.
excellent. So these cover what you can expect to see as a result of doing these things. The idea is that first, as a result of implementing documentation, data clarity standards, things like this, you end up with consistency throughout the business. More consistency leads to less stress. That, as the consistency builds, people actually understand what they're doing. And you get to the point in data that you can build dashboards that you can trust. Oh, that's another one. In terms of data, I don't know how many companies have dashboards where the CEO says, no, I can't look at that. It's not accurate. I don't trust it. Oh, we spent 100,000 last year making that dashboard. Yeah, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Um, it's a, it happens all the time. And so getting clarity in the business just provides a massive amount of relief. And finally, once we start getting this documentation and data management handled, we're able to start building automations and freeing up capacity. And I've got two more C's I like to layer in on top. These are the executive C's, confidence, and cash flow. And so ultimately, if you're not seeing more consistency in the business, more clarity in your day-to-day operations, and then finally capacity unlocks, and you're not feeling more confident about your growth, and you're not seeing an effect on your bottom line, you have not implemented properly, or you've chosen the wrong projects to implement.
Yeah, so how do you gauge? Because I imagine there may be pushback of, oh, implementing AI is expensive. How do you gauge like ROI, or value?
Yeah.
How do you track that?
Comes down to two areas. When we talk about like setting up offshore teams or building out a sales process like that, we talk about that in terms of strategic unlocks. So this allows us to do things that the business could not do before. Those are often worth millions of dollars in potential upside, but fundamentally they're the standard like quarterly bet that every business is making. On the other side, you've got, hey, this is a process we do every day. Or, hey, our response time for leads is 72 hours right now because that's how long it takes to quote. We need to change this number, and we know that changing this number will make us more money. So, oh, if we take 72 hours to 72 minutes for quoting, yeah, we're going to win more deals because we're faster. That's just like plain old math and science. If
Yeah.
we know that we do this task once a month and it takes us 8 hours and now it takes 30 minutes, we have a clear ROI savings. And so some of things are strategic and the rest are true tactical calculations you can make up front.
Yeah, I would imagine the um, minutes or hours or days for lead outreach is something that is definitely a pain point. Especially like if I think like home services is probably one that's big. You probably do a lot of. Um,
Yeah.
what's like the go-to to speed that up? Like, what do give me a lens into like, hey, Michael, I have a home service company. My lead time sucks. Like, help me.
Yeah. So we've actually talked about starting just like a dedicated productized service, like respond to leadsfaster.com or something, because this is one of the highest value wins you can make with automation. And so leads are going to come in, three or four ways at most. So one, they might come in through some sort of ad, and that ad's going to lead to a form normally on web. That's going to trigger something, setting up auto responders, automated emails, texts, follow-ups. From there, that's checkbox number one. Then, if they have phone lines, making sure they have an answering service or an AI answering service. I think Rosie AI is the one I've seen a few people implement now, where that way somebody answers the phone 24/7, human ideally, AI good enough, And then that has the ability to route up to to a next level.
Gotcha.
Then
Rosie AI, I just pulled that up. Is that so? Is that like someone who is it AI that's going to answer for you, or what does it do?
Rosie's an AI answering service. So I think they used to be human, if I remember right, and they switched over to AI past couple years. And so
Gotcha.
it picks up, it asks a few questions, and then it routes or just records and takes a message.
Wow, nice.
Um, and then you've got people who are going to text or message through like Facebook Messenger, Yelp, that sort of thing. Those similar to autoresponders, you can in many cases set up like an automated system to respond. Otherwise, you just get somebody offshore or you make it part of the onshore responsibilities of like an office admin. And then we got texts, we got calls, we got emails. Finally, they go to your website, they land on the page. Got to make sure that form automatically responds quickly. Now, a big part for home services is not just responding, but then being able to quote quickly. This is generally a matter of either having enough back data inside the company where we can build like a rough estimating system, or looking at solutions that allow us to like recolor walls inside of a room for painters, or take pictures of a room to get square footage, or pull the square footage of the backyard based on the satellite image. Things like that, where, yeah, tools can do that now. And then you don't need to send somebody on site to quote. So remote quoting ends up being the next like huge thing in improving sales inside of home services specifically.
What are you using to like automatically respond?
Yeah. So I would say we end up in home services, maybe 20% of our clients are on Go High Level
Okay.
or a system like that. Maybe another 20 to 30% are on Active Campaign, um, in home services specifically. And then the rest are on more, they normally have like CRM specific to the industry, like Kickserve or Jobber, things like that. Service Titan is, I think, the biggest one in the space. And then in those cases, either we'll be using some sort of automation tool built into them, or we will just be integrating using Zapier or something like that and building on top.
Gotcha. So it's a function of like a CRM. I've looked at Go High Level, but I primarily use HubSpot, and I know there
Yeah.
are some automations, but they're always doesn't it, I never seem to get it quite right in terms of like how to reply. I'm probably just not using it the right way.
Yeah. HubSpot isn't so HubSpot's great for B2B and it does a lot of things, but they play it safe in what they allow you to do in terms of like if you're sending a message from HubSpot, it's very hard to make it not look like it's automated from HubSpot. Whereas there are other tools that make it much more from personal accounts. And that I think is sort of the way the industry is moving is more, oh, even if it's fully automated, it's really an AI with a human's name and it's just sitting in front.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's fair.
Awesome.
Any I know we kind of flipped through that scorecard. Any other things you wanted to kind of highlight around, anything top of mind?
Um, well, all of these frameworks are battle tested. Like these are the frameworks that I'm putting in my book. It's not like these are the frameworks that we just made up last week. We've been using them for a few years now. Um, if you're getting like a consulting business or something where it's all knowledge work, you actually have two super high lifts instead. One is implementing ClickUp or Notion, some sort of unified tool that replaces most of your other data. The other is just a prompt library. So everyone in the company gets ChatGPT and we all share what works. And like that goes miles.
Interesting. I like that last one. I might steal that. It seems like my team, we all have different like takes on it, and I'll uncover something and I'll share it with everyone. But I think
Yeah.
encouraging more sharing of like just what works and what doesn't is helpful.
So every 2 weeks, we have a team meeting internally where everyone just goes around and shows how we're using different tools and what we like and what works right now. And that's also when like our dedicated team members share updates on best practices they've developed in working with the tools.
Nice. I like that.
Um,
Um, what is
ooh,
I know you mentioned your kind of dedicated AI
hold on. Can I?
aficionado. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was going to talk about that.
Yeah.
So one, if you've got $1,000 a month free, this I think is your highest lift. Hire an AI apprentice. Their job is to spend like half their day learning AI and half their day building projects for you. They don't have to know anything about business. They have to already have started teaching themselves on their own how to build and do AI because you're not going to be the one to teach them. But then you just hire them, you stick them in a corner, and in 6 months, that will be the best money you ever spend. We're turning that into like, we are no longer serving customers with like fractional implementation. We close the doors because we are going all in on just training apprentices because I saw like, oh, this is our best cost hire internally. We did for a few clients, and I tell everyone the same thing. That's what you should do.
Where'd you find like your first apprentice?
So the first, so I do I've always done apprentices in my businesses, but like now we do AI ones. The first batch of apprentices was a mixture of Nigeria and the Philippines. Um, and then we have since added in Ukraine to the mix in Eastern Europe, and those are going to be the three locations we focus on.
Nice. And in terms of like vetting or like where'd you find them? Like Indeed or word of mouth? Like where'd you
Yeah,
look?
LinkedIn and Upwork,
Okay.
mostly LinkedIn. I really like LinkedIn ads for finding people. Upwork is great, but most of them are a little too freelancy. They might be too entrepreneurial, and I want somebody who wants to work for somebody else.
Right. That's true. That's fair.
Yeah. But you can also find, and some of my best hires have been like, oh, they're freelancers on Upwork, but they're burnt out by the up and down of freelancing and getting new clients. It's been 3 years. They're ready to take all those skills and adaptability and come internal somewhere. And those guys work really well.
Yeah, I like it. I toyed with the idea of almost like an AI intern or something like that. I like the word
Yeah.
apprentice. The word apprentice is a better phrasing of it. Just to be like just a junkie, an AI junkie, to keep up with this stuff. Like, how are you keeping up with all this? It
Oh,
seems
I
like
mean,
it's moving like speed of light,
like I hired somebody to keep up with it for me.
right?
That's the literal answer. Now we have like multiple team members who I can throw a tool into my team's Slack channel and somebody will test it by the end of the week. And that lets us keep ahead and that lets us always look for an edge. But realistically, there is no secret hidden tool that nobody doesn't know about. It's all either on GitHub or it's the big like main tools. It costs my guy, we spend $30 to $40 a day with Claude Code. Um, totally worth it. It's cheaper than hiring another developer.
Really? Okay. Tell me more
So
about that, just out of curiosity.
yeah, so Claude Code, like it cost API to credits. So like we pay directly and we spend $1,000 per developer who's using Claude Code. And so we can only use it on like projects where we know the returns there. but it 3, 4x's the speed of development for my guy. And so it's worth it when, like, if it's a client project, we just bake that into the cost structure.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's a combination of like internal and external. Like, what is it like actually doing? Like, out of curiosity, like, is it just
Like,
acting as like a developer, or maybe what was something you
yeah.
recently did?
Ooh, yeah. You wanna see a tool?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay. Let's see if this tool works. Um, let's sorry, I gotta log into one here.
Yeah, no worries.
Here
And
we go. Perfect.
let's do it.
Let me share screen. Okay. And this is a tool we originally built for our internal use, and we've since talked about making it external. And so let's create a login. Cool. And so this is a ghostwriting tool.
Okay.
And let's not update. And so this was built by one of my apprentices. Um,
This whole website?
this entire thing, yeah.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
And so what this does is it allows you to upload source content or import it from social media. It then puts it into a content library, and you can create content and just say, hey, I want this number of posts. You can select the way you want the post made. And then what you can actually do is it allows you to create brands from Twitter. So that way you don't have to think too much. But then it has this really cool templating language. And so I don't know if you've created content with AI, but like normally there's a workflow that works pretty well where you're putting in the same prompts, but it's a real pain in the butt to always go through the same process again and again and again. And so we created a templating system to stick these into step-by-step prompts that the system then uses and runs through. And that allows you to generate, tens or hundreds of posts at a time. And
Gotcha.
then you go through, you approve them, and you say, yeah, these are good, these are not. And after 500 posts, it will retrain itself on the new data. Um, so it's a pretty fully featured system. Um, yeah.
Interesting. And this will I imagine you could link your accounts to this too.
Yeah. So it lets you link your social accounts, and then it will grab all your social content and use that as source content. And we have some extra tools that we haven't released into this yet that like rank your source content based on how well the engagement went. So it can recommend content to create in the future.
And I imagine the underlying, is that Claude or is it ChatGPT?
Oh, well, that's going back to that workflow management tool. Um, so it actually, right now, these I think are all set up with Claude. Yeah. But it would actually allow you, and oh, if I go create one, it would allow me to select what model I want to use. And so we will often use multiple together. All of this core system ones just use Claude, but it allows you to sort of control the system more effectively.
Ah, okay, got it. Cool, cool.
Yeah, let's see here. Let's do see what happens here. I wonder if this This system may not be working right now. I may have logged into the wrong version. Well, that's a little embarrassing, but I do assure you this works. We were going to release it next week. Um, but the way the system's designed to sort of mimic what I used to do as a ghostwriter at a Gateway X. And so I think we'll see a lot more things like this come out where, oh, it's one guy who knows the process. He hires an apprentice like this. That apprentice spends 3 months learning to build the things, and then the next 3 or 6 months building and customizing the thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I like the idea of the AI apprentice and just like leveraging and building out, you know, the power of it. The ghostwriting element, I don't have a ton of experience around it. I've used GPT to sort of organize videos for like
Yeah.
timestamps, like this YouTube video will be timestamped, so things like that, but haven't used it for like like pure content, mainly because of just like the fear of like it losing my voice. But I imagine you
Takes a
could
lot of
probably,
work.
yeah, you could train it probably.
And that's a lot of the workflows we have, like all have a step in them where it's, oh, step one is the initial generation. If it's a two-step, the second step is called voice brand edit. So it's like, oh, it generates the content and then it puts it in the right voice.
Gotcha.
Yeah. What else can we answer for the
Yeah, so if we bring it back for those of you, for people who are looking at businesses prospectively or thinking about buying, I guess what are some, as we look at the clock, we rounded out an hour. Did you want to flip through like the score or just some last takeaways? I guess,
Yeah,
what do you
I
think?
think well, if this interests you, you can actually fill out my checklist that I use to score businesses yourself. If you go to digitalopsplaybook.com, you can download the PDF I was showing you. It walks through all of the frameworks as well as sort of a brief hiring guide. And it has the exact checklist we use to figure out what level our clients are at. And
Ah,
so
so
that's an
so that
interactive
level we just
worksheet.
went over.
Exactly. There's an
Okay.
interactive worksheet inside of that download that lets you just check, 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 add up your scores and know exactly where you are. And
Gotcha.
I've got a little version of it here that unfortunately I cannot share with anyone yet. Um, can you see my screen?
Yep, I can see it.
But it allows you to go through this and the PDF version, you just have to do a little math at the end. I apologize for the hassle,
So how
but
about
you
we
can,
do how about we do this? What if we do a walkthrough of just like my business out of
yeah,
curiosity? Let's do
let's
it.
do it.
I'll
Okay, let me,
try to zoom in a little bit.
yeah, here.
Just so we can see what the tangible outlook. Let's see. So check all statements that currently apply. Technology system,
Cloud-based.
uh, core business software is cloud-based. Yep, I'd agree with that.
Okay. Can all your
Um,
departments easily share data?
no, I don't think so. Um, Systems can be accessed securely. I would say yes. That's probably it. Maybe there's a documented tech stack. Yeah. Data
Data management.
management. Data
This
entry
is
is
where people fail consistently.
uh reports can be generated automatically. What does that mean? Just like any
So,
report?
not necessarily any report, but any report you would want. Like, is your data set up in such a way that if you say, hey, how much money do we make on a per client basis in the past year? You would be able to answer that.
I don't know if I could check that then.
Yeah. And like I said, normally this is a consistent like 0 out of 6 for people. I love this section.
I would say it's probably automated where possible. I mean, it's more of like like I want it to be automated. I don't know. That first
Well,
one, maybe not.
it's this one is probably not the case if this one is not also the case.
Gotcha. I think
Um,
it's safe to say it's blank for me, so we can keep it moving.
all right, process documentation. I'm hoping you got a few here.
Store, yep. So the second one, central location, documentation step by step. Yep. Um, pro documentation regularly reviewed. Yeah. The fourth one.
A lot of people never
Um,
do that.
yeah, I actually update that weekly with my team.
Hmm,
That's just something well,
that's awesome.
I've I've tried to learn. New team members can follow process. I would hope so, but I'm not comfortable to say definitively.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So I
We'll
think
give you that one for today.
okay, cool. People in team. Oh boy. Uh, there's no plan, so I can't check the first one. Team members are comfortable adapting. I would say we get the second one, yeah. Yes. Oh boy, I think that's probably it.
Okay. That's
What is the
again, this is
what's that last one mean? Internal.
draftsman architect. So it means you have somebody to sort of own this digital operations and architecture internally who can lead these sort of projects.
So that's like the apprentice.
The apprentice would not check this box, but like a year or two in, the apprentice would check this box.
Gotcha. Okay.
And the
That's where,
apprentice is going to be half the cost at that point compared to hiring somebody fresh out.
yeah, I
Uh,
mean, at least I would think.
Probably
Okay.
so with apprentices, you run into the idea that like people who are ambitious enough to be an apprentice will leave you if you are not consistently like matching their pay to their skills.
Yeah, that's fair.
Um, so automation.
Oh boy. Um, you can check the third one. No, no, actually, minimal time? No, no, no. Uncheck that.
That's it's
Um,
a tough
complex
list.
processes are partially automated. You could say yes.
Okay.
Um, oh boy. I have some workflow triggers automatically based on events, but it's more like manual. So like based on something that comes in, like if they check in like our lead magnet, if they check like A, B, or C, depending on what they check,
Yeah.
some we can manually go in and start like a sequence, but we don't have like if they check B, do that. So that's what's leakage.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
like
that would be an
yeah,
automatic trigger there.
yeah. So
Okay.
I think just one. So let's see. Oh no,
Cool. I mean,
level one.
yeah, that's pretty normal. Like I would say I have seen one business come to us on the way to level 3 already. Most businesses like there's no reason to go past level 2 until you get into AI.
Yeah,
Um, and I think these are probably the next steps. Like this is done, but you need to layer in your data requirements on top of your existing processes. And
right.
then that's going to allow you to figure out the rest of it.
Yeah, let's see. Migrate critical data, foundational. So this is one, and this is why I want to do it. Provide foundational digital skills training.
Yeah.
If I came to you and said, what does that mean? Like, give me one takeaway.
Yeah. So like we hold weekly office hours for client teams where we have somebody available who is generally an expert in their software or in AI prompting, that sort of thing. just sits there and is available to walk through things with them. And then when they're rolling out new tools, we record trainings, we provide office hours again, and then we provide one-on-one options. And it's more about making the training available to people so that way they can fit it into their schedules. And then occasionally doing that sort of mandatory, hey, let's sit down and work through something together.
Gotcha. Okay, that's helpful. Um, Someone asked the website for this checklist. I think you mentioned it, but do you mind answering that?
Yeah. So digitalopsplaybook.com. And
Okay.
actually, let me type it in here. This is probably ops playbook.
Oh, it's this one? Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Cool. Just posted that one. And
Excellent.
nice. Um,
Great.
Not well, a level one, I have some work to do. I got some homework with myself. I got to look into that
That's
AI apprenticeship and the automations.
that I recommend it. Like AI apprentice, 800 to $1,000 a month, offshore, young, hungry. If you're searching for a deal, you can have this person just build scrapers and like list verification and then do outbound. If you already have the deal in hand and you're trying to transform a business, then you teach them the business while you have them learn AI and automation and work on projects that combine the two with small tasks over time.
I like that. Yeah, that's something valuable because a pain point, and for those who are still sticking around, a pain point with searching to buy a business is like deal flow and like data. So I think that's something that could work well. Have you helped in that area at all, or are you primarily in okay, what is it? What have you helped with?
Yeah, so like the first few projects we did were around like building out deal flow and outreach, like deal flow management and outreach systems, specifically. And so scraping, verification, personalizing pitches, like putting together deal information. In some cases, creating like customized due diligence systems for real estate or businesses, so that way they could upload documents or take in information and pre-vet certain parts. Um, I am happy to dig in on any more specific part. This is a system type I've built quite a bit of over the years.
Interesting. So as a like for a living, I'm a like financial due diligence provider.
Yeah,
You know, I spent 10 years in private equity and banking and stood up my practice to focus on helping entrepreneurs buy small businesses. So
awesome.
that's where, my journey has been leading. So for the due diligence piece specifically, what have you built out?
Yeah, so due diligence technology that we build tends to be specific to the fund or to the operation because they have specific sources they are looking at in many cases. But the most common ones are things like checking for legal issues automatically. Some of the common like deep research or ChatGPT searches you might run on a business, automating running those so that way you have the like report straight back to you. Um, we have done recategorization for line items. So taking in when they're buying like these small disparate like landscaping companies and stuff where none of it's categorized in a standard way. We built a system that would input like PDFs or Excel, whatever they had, and then standardize all of the accounting documents so that way they could ingest into their standard pipeline more effectively. Um, I'd say those are probably the two highest lift. And then in like real estate due diligence, there's a lot more stuff you can do in terms of like ownership tracking or determining, hey, what's on this property, who has rights, that sort of thing.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah, I imagine digesting like the income statement data and recategorization, that's probably quite complicated, right?
That was a pretty significant project with a client. I think they use that as sort of a core for their
Oh, you got a
fund.
friend.
Oh, hello. Hey, bud. Just wake up? Think so.
Uh,
Um, this is Sobek. He's my mascot.
that's good. Um,
Yeah. Due diligence is tough because everyone has their own process, but it's simple in that it's normally checking against publicly available data or comparing things that already exist.
yeah, I'm curious on the legal front. Um, what have you seen like when you do those? Because I imagine it's not it's using like automation to do checks,
Yeah.
right? Like what
So
does
it's
that
more
look
about
like?
highlighting in something like that. So like I don't know how many times you've met guys who bought businesses without like consulting anyone, and then they end up buying a construction business and it turns out it's getting sued 4 times, but the lawsuits just hadn't filtered the way through yet. And so then they get stuck dealing with like all of these damages and they have to declare bankruptcy on their new acquisition. I think that's a common enough story.
Yeah.
With a roofer or construction, something like that. And so in cases like that, being able to look back across the owner's record and looking not just at that one company, but then looking back through their history, like, oh, the guy you're buying from has, 3 DUIs and got caught 5 years ago, a county over, for operating as a general contractor without a license. Are you sure you still want to buy from this guy? Um, those are simpler because it's mostly public records trawling and then just checking for name match and seeing if there's like any patterns worth flagging.
Yeah, that's almost like a owner screener or like a background check. You can use AI to do that?
Oh yeah. Oh,
Really?
I use
Huh.
AI for real estate valuation,
Hmm.
and I will tell you, O3 Pro is like 95th, 99th percentile as a real estate value evaluation tool.
O3 Pro ChatGPT or Claude?
Yeah. O3 Pro is ChatGPT.
Okay.
So the MLS is like the real estate listings database that all the brokers have. I copy paste an entire listing out of that. And then I take the mortgage and loan information from another program called Land ID. And it gives me like a valuation I think is accurate every time. And I may be wrong, but I'm probably not in this one narrow market. And I think it is a very accurate evaluation tool for that in particular.
Interesting. I'm gonna write that down as an eventual home buyer, eventually.
That's
Have you ever
exactly what
used
I'm
it for
using
like
it for
small
right now.
businesses? Have you used it for small business, like valuation?
Yeah, I think, and I actually have a prompt for this. Let me grab this prompt. So the problem with using it to evaluate small businesses is you as a person are probably too upbeat about acquiring them. And so I put something like this as the custom prompt into my AI tool every time. And so the one I'm using in Claude is I don't want your validation. Push back, point out inconsistencies, hold your opinions firm and defend them. Tell it like it is. Don't sugarcoat. Take a forward thinking view. Use a formal professional tone. Get right to the point. Disagree when I am wrong. Never agree to falsehoods unless specifically directed. Don't offer up new information. Um,
Wow. Talking me into it.
Yeah, well, I wanted to talk mean to me because they're trained to be too friendly. And so I think for small business evaluation, you kind of have to put something like that in first and prime it to disagree with you. And then it does a very good job at pointing out the flaws in investment theses or other things like that. The only thing to note with Claude or with ChatGPT, I think Claude is more likely to do this. ChatGPT keeps a little cooler head, um, is they will like use pithy statements to like breeze over facts or building a logical argument. And you've kind of got to push back and be like, hey, no, I need you to build a logical argument on why this is bad.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, because I speak with probably half dozen to a dozen prospective business buyers a week. And naturally, some have brought up using ChatGPT and the AI tools. And every time I have tested it out, I get sort of like the rosy red glasses view on it. And I'm like, well, like you're missing a lot of things. Like, give me almost like I know the good, give me the bad. So I do like this approach.
This let me see. The I've got I normally have Claude chewing me out in a recent chat. Oh, here we go. So I asked it if this was a good business idea to something recently, and it said, looking at your 84-minute rambling session and executive summary, there are significant contradictions and fatal flaws. And then it just went point by point, like boom, 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 boom. Here's six things that are wrong. And then here's the real issue. And then I gave it more clarification and we kept going back and forth.
Gotcha.
But yeah, if you put in a system prompt into your personalization like that, it will push back much, much harder.
So are you, because I know, are you putting this in like a project which you're creating in Claude or ChatGPT, or like are you just
No,
prompting it with this?
so this is I go inside of Claude and I'll share my screen again here. So I go into settings,
Okay.
profile, and then I put it right here. Personal
Oh, so it's in
preferences.
your, oh, it's in the profile. Got it. Okay.
And then for ChatGPT, it's the same section. It's under personalization.
So this, I'm kind of doing a DIY as I follow along.
Yeah.
So this now will take this prompt and apply it to everything, right? Okay. Got it. Okay.
And it will forget that it was told this after the first two or three messages.
Oh, okay.
I'm just going to warn you now. It's so heavily trained to be helpful and nice and kind that it's going to like forget it's supposed to be contrarian and mean because that's just not in its training. And so you kind of have to, you can use this, but like in either system, it will forget pretty quickly.
Interesting. Yeah, I have noticed that. Do you have like a cheat sheet of prompts, or is this just like knowledge that you just,
So we have like an internal team database of, oh, here's all of our prompts. I use, so we use the console, the Anthropic console to write prompts. Um, they have a great prompt writing tool
okay,
there where you just tell it like, hey, this is the prompt I'm trying to create, and then it's gonna write the prompt for you. And that is amazing. That's what we use internally for most things. And then we tweak it over time. But yeah, I just use the Anthropic prompt writer. I don't have we don't keep like a secret stash on hand
yeah. I
anymore.
know there's some like people will post about like cheat sheets and whatnot.
Those are all BS. They're just trying to get your downloads. This is the only cheat sheet you need. Tell me what
Gotcha.
you want the prompt to do, and then it's gonna write the prompt.
Console.anthropic. Okay.
Yeah, this see, it's writing like this is the best prompt. AI wrote this prompt.
Said this was your task was summarizing a document into a maximum of 10 bullet points. Was that what you wrote?
Yeah, I just said, yeah,
Yeah.
do 10 bullets or summarize the document. And
Gotcha.
then it
Okay.
wrote this whole, like it added the rules, it gave output, it created the right structure.
And then you'll take that and you'll put it into Claude
So this can be used with anything,
with anything.
but yeah.
Okay. Nice.
But Anthropic console, you just hit generate a prompt. and then you tell it what you want, and it will create the prompt.
Gotcha. That's a good takeaway. I have about 10 tabs open after this quick AI cramming session.